We're back on the 2-minute drill. We have Mark in the lead with 13 points, but in the circle of love, it's Chris Earl. Please welcome him all the way out from Duluth, Minnesota, a sports anchor. You like karaoke. What's your favorite song?
Luck be a lady tonight. Let's do it. Sing with me, Kenny.
That wasn't very good, actually.
Sorry.
But your favorite athlete, George Brett. Your specialty, Kansas City Kings. And no one has picked the Kansas City Kings yet, so we'll see if you get that far. All right, you saw what you have to beat to 13 is sort of the benchmark so far. And let's go over the categories before we begin. Lennox Lewis has boxing nicknames. His nickname is the Champ. Jack Ramsey, small school stars. Tom Jackson, the Jacksons. We worked on that earlier. It's all people with the name Jackson or, you know. Peter Gammons, King George. We're talking about Steinbrenner. George Steinbrenner, the boss. All right. You know what's going on?
Let's do it.
Don't sing anymore and we won't hear.
No problem.
Your 2-minute drill begins now.
Jack.
The NBA recently named its Sportsmanship Award for which retired Pistons guard out of McNeese State?
Joe Dumars.
Correct.
Jack.
Which Raptors rebounder was the 1985 NC2A Division II Player of the Year at Virginia Union?
Oakley.
Correct.
Jack.
In 1988, which three-point bomber was drafted by the Phoenix Suns from Central Michigan?
Thunder Dan Marley.
Correct.
Jack.
In 1985, which point guard from Wisconsin Stevens Point did the Portland Trail Blazers select in the first round?
Terry Porter.
Correct.
Pointers. Jack.
Which most improved player of the 1999 NBA season attended Fayetteville State of North Carolina?
Robert Goulet.
Armstrong.
Tom Jackson.
Which Auburn University running back and outfielder won the Heisman Trophy in 1985?
Bo Jackson.
Correct.
TJ.
Jesse Jackson performed the eulogy at the funeral of which Dodger pioneer?
Jackie Robinson.
Correct.
TJ.
In 1985, tight end Keith Jackson played for which national champion college football team?
Oklahoma.
Correct.
TJ.
Which Cleveland Browns receiver named Jackson temporarily switched his last name to Dyson in 1993?
Michael Jackson.
Correct.
TJ.
Which CBA team did Phil Jackson coach before landing a job with the Chicago Bulls?
Albany.
Correct. He's done.
Peter.
On which NBC sitcom of the 90s was George Steinbrenner a character?
Seinfeld.
Correct.
Peter.
George Steinbrenner claimed to beat up 2 men in an elevator while his Yankees were in the 1981 World Series against which team?
Dodgers.
Correct.
Peter.
Which Yankee great did George Steinbrenner fire as manager of the Yankees 16 games into the 1985 season?
Yogi Berra.
Correct.
Peter.
George Steinbrenner was convicted of making illegal campaign contributions to which U.S. president?
George Bush.
No, Nixon. Go to Lennox.
Lennox.
Which world heavyweight boxing champion was nicknamed the Brown Bomber?
Joe Louis.
Correct.
Lennox.
Which Pan American powerhouse of the...
Couldn't get the time to get that one out. All right, it looks like you have 13, but I'm going to say you have 14 because you got all of Tom Jackson's correct. We get a bonus point when you get all correct in a category. You're definitely going to the next round. Let's find out who's going to join you. Earl coming up. You're now down 32-14.
Wow.
Quite a run to make there. He was impressive. You saw how it works, though. We're all firing you questions. You don't get to ask where they're going to come from. You settled in?
Let's do it.
I'm going to pause just for dramatic effect right now.
Thank you.
All right. Your 2-minute drill begins now.
In pro boxing, what does the abbreviation WBA stand for?
World Boxing Association.
Correct.
In 1996, which pitcher struck out 20 major leaguers in a single game for the second time in his career?
Roger Clemens.
Correct. Which tennis Grand Slam tournament is played on red clay?
French.
Correct.
What bowl game is known as the granddaddy of them all?
Rose.
Correct.
Who became the commissioner of the NBA in 1984?
David Stern.
Correct. Who was the first runner to break the 4-minute mile?
Pass.
Bannister.
What Big East basketball team did P.J. Carlesimo coach?
Seton Hall.
Correct.
In 1999 film The Hurricane depicted a story on which imprisoned boxer?
Pass.
Reuben Carter.
What team switched from the American League East to the National League Central Division in 1998?
Correct.
For what NFL team did Hall of Fame lineman Anthony Munoz play his entire career?
Cincinnati.
Correct. What is the minimum age to play on the senior PGA Tour?
50.
Correct.
Which Japanese slugger hit more lifetime home runs than any American?
Sadahara O.
Correct.
In 1997, which Utah Ute was drafted second overall by
Keith
the
Van Horn.
76ers?
Correct.
What NFC team did Dave Wanstead head coach before coaching?
Bears.
the Dodgers?
Correct.
Which 19th century pugilist was the last bare-knuckle boxing champion?
Sullivan.
Correct. Colombian soccer player Andres Escobar was murdered days after he kicked the ball into his own goal in a game against what team?
U.S.
Correct.
Which Oakland Raiders linebacker's nickname was the Mad Stork?
Pass.
Hendricks.
During a 1977 game, which Lakers forward nearly ended Rudy Tomjanovich's career with a punch?
Kermit Washington.
Correct.
What comic book artist paid $2.7 million?
Tom McFarlane.
Correct.
What professional boxing weight class is directly below heavyweight?
Light heavyweight.
Cruiserweight.
For what team did Isaiah Ryder play the first 3 years of his pro
Timberwolves.
career?
Correct.
Who coached the New York Giants immediately following Bill Parcells?
Ray Hanley.
Correct.
In 1986, which Atlanta Brave hit 4 home runs in a single
Bob
game?
Horner.
Correct.
Which famous doctor won more than $100,000 for answering a question on boxing on the 19th?
Robert Goulet.
Good question there, but Dr. Joyce Brothers, by the narrowest of margins, you have won. You've won $5,000. Tough loss, Mark. You go down by 1, but we have some specialty muffins and some ESPN stuff for you. Thanks for playing. Stay around and see if Chris can turn 5,000 into 10,000 on your specialty, the obscure 1979-1980 Kansas City Kings. We're coming right back with that on the 2-minute drill.
Time now.
We're back on the 2-minute drill, and it's just Chris Earl left. Congratulations, you won $5,000. See if you can turn that into 10. But want to tell you about your ESPN experience. You're spending Sunday with the NFL Countdown team, including this guy right here, Tom Jackson. Going to bug these guys and watch some Sunday tackle football.
We'll rough him up a little bit.
Yeah. Is it as fun as described in that room?
It's even more fun. It's even more fun than anybody can imagine.
All right. I hope you guys bond and spend a lot of Sundays together. You also are moving on in the tournament. You're the 14th to do so, going to the next round. Now, you're flying back to Minnesota, doing your job, and then you're going to come back and continue in the tournament, see how long your stay in New York lasts that time. You got to keep on winning to move on. All right, you picked the very obscure 1979-1980 Kansas City Kings. And with no offense to any fans of that team, but it's
There
the
weren't
first
enough
time.
of them, so, yeah.
It's the first time. Did you go to a lot of those games? Or?
When I was 5 years old, my father and my mother took me to a lot of those games, and I just remember that year so well because they were a lousy franchise for the most part. They had no fans. That's why they moved, of course. But for a couple of years, they were all right, and that's the year I remember the most.
And you came into town. Jack Ramsey came in and did some coaching there.
Portland usually beat their brains in.
Yes. I remember that well.
For $10,000, the Kansas City Kings enjoyed one of their most successful campaigns during the 1979-80 season, going 47-35. During the regular season, 2 players came up with terrific single-game totals. One King scored 45 in a game, which was his season high. Another King put up 49 in a game for his season high. For $10,000 American, named these 2 Kansas City Kings.
45 points, Scott Wedman, January 2nd, 1980 against Utah.
What is wrong with you?
I don't know. 49 points for $10,000. 49 points. Otis Birdsong.
What was the date?
I have no idea on that.
You got your 10,000. You've won it.
Yes!
You got the 10 grand. You're moving on in the tournament. You got the ESPN experience. We'll see you in the next round of the tournament. Thanks to everyone for coming out, especially Lennox Lewis, the champ, because I already know you guys. See you next time on the ESPN 2-Minute Drill.